And welcome to the 5th episode of my Dream Block series. I'm Nora from Nora Healings, and in today's video, I want to dive into the category of past life dreams. I will give some hints and examples on how to recognize past life dreams, and then I will share why I believe we have them. And in the end, I will share 3 examples of past life dreams that I've had. How do we recognize past life dreams? In my case, there are several hints or signs. The first one is that the dreams keep reoccurring, they keep repeating. For example, when you dream about different scenes, but in the same setting and the same time period with the same story experienced from different angles. You're in a certain environment and interact with certain individuals and you feel a certain way. So you have repeating dreams in the same setting with the same story with repetitive patterns. Let's say they play in the 1920s and sometimes you're outside and other times indoors, but they seem to all have the same theme. You'll notice for the time period characteristic architecture, cars, if there were cars, fashion, decoration styles, color themes, maybe music. And you do certain things regularly, like maybe there's this one place that you keep revisiting, or certain individuals you keep interacting with, and things you seem to repeatedly do in this setting of dreams. Doesn't have to be the exact same dream every time, but they have obvious repetitive patterns and it's the same theme, the same story, and they have the same feeling to them. The second hint is that the dreams are very vivid and feel extremely real, and you will remember them. It can feel really intense, so you might wake up feeling almost a bit disturbed. And the feeling that this is a memory from a place where you have been won't let you go, although you know that you couldn't have been there, at least not in this life. And the third hint would be the emotions. After a dream like this, you might be overwhelmed by emotions, especially the feeling that you won't be able to shake off that this is real. But you might also feel shock or confusion, strong nostalgia, or even homesickness. And your mind tells you that this is completely irrational and doesn't make sense, but your intuition tells you that what you feel is genuine and that this is real. And maybe you also experienced watching some documentary where they show an image of some ancient structure or a place you haven't visited in this current life, but it triggers such a strong sense of familiarity. And it's so intense that it's quite overwhelming at times. You might remember how this place looked in detail. Maybe they only show an image or two, but you will remember the whole place. You'll be able to walk the streets in your mind's eye, and you'll remember where the streets led and what building was where, and you just know exactly how to navigate through this place, even though you know you couldn't have been there. And then maybe you research the place and look at images or actually physically visit it, and it turns out you were right. You know this place, and maybe you'll even perceive on some level that the place recognizes you too. But why do we have these dreams? That's something that I was wondering about for many years. And now I believe that it's probably for soul healing for growth and for integration. Sometimes the soul is not able to heal from a trauma or to work through karma from a lifetime. Or maybe there was a lesson to learn or something that you wanted to achieve, but there wasn't enough time for it before physically dying. And I think that most of us carry some of that into next incarnations. And in my case, the dreams from the past lives seem to show up because of traumas that my soul is still healing from. Or there's another element that is worth remembering in this life because it should be integrated. It's a bit like pieces from myself that return to me when the time is right. And sometimes the influence of past life karma on behaviors and patterns in someone's life can be really obvious. And it does seem like we incarnate within the same soul cluster or soul group that is working on the same, or at least on very similar issues together since I don't know how many generations and reincarnations. But maybe you've also noticed certain karmic patterns in certain families or even friend groups. It's very interesting. But we are multidimensional beings, and because there is no time, all of these incarnations are actually happening at the same time. We're just not aware of it all the time because we would hardly be able to function here. But some of us become a little bit aware of times, at times. And especially children remember past lives easily and forget about them as they grow up. But all experience and information from different incarnations can't be processed by the human mind and understood all at once. But I believe that our soul can and does. We're connected to all our incarnations, and the soul and our Akashic records hold this information and knowledge. And what I feel reacts immediately when a recall is triggered is our hearts and the solar plexus. And throughout life, some bits and pieces can be presented to the mind. For example, in the form of dreams or visions, or maybe you want to call it downloads, or through triggered or spontaneous past life recalls. And I experienced a past life regression with Leah Davis. Her procedure is amazing and extremely effective, and her style is very gentle. So I felt calm and safe the whole time. And if you're interested in going through a past life regression, I highly recommend her. You can also find her here on YouTube. Her channel is called Unbound Wisdom. I will link her channel in the description. And now let me share some dreams that I've had that I recognized as past life dreams. So one theme of dreams was me working in a messy office that was full of paper stacks. And I used to travel to different cities around the world, or especially Europe, in a very small plane. Maybe it was a private jet. And the jet had wooden walls with these, I believe, copper frames around the edges. And I wore a suit and tie, and I was some kind of a businessman. And I was invited to fancy parties in hotels and mansions. And there's this one hotel that I remember the most because I kept dreaming about it many times. And it had beige wallpapers with black patterns and carpet floors. And everybody smoked and drank, and some women wore feathers in their hats, and the men wore suits and hats and trench coats. And there were two telephone booths next to each other at the end of one room. And I remember being in places that I believe are Vienna, Brussels, London, Amsterdam, and Berlin regularly. And I kept waking up in different hotels and had the habit to get up and look out the window to figure out where I was now. And one of these dreams just felt too real. It felt like I really woke up in a hotel in the 40s, maybe 50s. And I still wore my suit and tie and even my shoes. So I went to bed like this. And I had the worst taste in my mouth and had a huge hangover. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I had the longest, most vivid dream about being a 25-year-old woman who lives in Switzerland. And I lived her whole life. And I got up from the bed and looked in a mirror. And I was a blonde 40-something-year-old man. And there was a glass with something in it from the night before. I believe it was whiskey. And I took a sip and then threw up in the sink in the bathroom. And the strangest thing about it was that my consciousness, like Nora consciousness, was kind of aware while I was reaching for the glass. And I even thought to myself, like, ew, don't do it. Like, please just don't. Because for me in this life, it would be like the worst thing if I had to drink alcohol right after waking up. And then I took the sip and blacked out in the bathroom. And then I woke up here in this life again. And this dream just felt so real that I seriously questioned if this is my life now, or if in reality I'm dreaming and I'm a 40-something-year-old guy who just passed out in the bathroom. Yeah, and in another dream theme, I was in the tunnels underneath what I believe is Teotihuacan in Mexico. I had the same dream, I believe, 3 times. It was the same every time. And I didn't know that it was Teotihuacan, but I found out later when I saw images of this place. It was this large area with many different pyramids in different sizes, and underneath them was this tunnel system. And the walls in the tunnels were painted in this warm, dark red with some golden elements. And the pyramids were also dark red. And I was a child. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And I had to perform this ritualistic performance where I had to take certain paths through the tunnels without getting confused. I remember that it was very serious and important, and I felt a lot of pressure to do it right. And at one point in these tunnels, there was this aisle in the center with 5 or 6 tunnels around it, and I had to walk around this aisle 3 times and then continue through the right tunnel. And it was really easy to get confused because everything looked the same, and I had to really focus to not take the wrong path. And by the end, I was supposed to reach the large pyramid if I did it right. And it feels like I had trained it many times. And then the day came where my performance counted, and I was dressed in a long cloak in the same dark red with gold, just like the walls in the tunnels. And my mother and a younger sibling of mine were there with me. And before I started the performance, my mother told me to take another tunnel after this aisle than I had trained. And this really threw me off, but I agreed. And as I got to the spot where I had to circle around the aisle 3 times, I really felt torn about what path to take, but I decided to listen to my mother and do as she said. Um, and I came out by the small pyramid that she told that I would come out. And she said that she would wait there, but she wasn't there. And I looked around and I could see the other pyramids because I thought that maybe I just got confused and took the wrong exit, but she was nowhere. And I was overcome by panic. And that's all that I remember from this dream. And sometimes I wonder if maybe I was supposed to be sacrificed and my mother tried to save me. Maybe I don't really want to know. And as I mentioned, when I had these dreams, I didn't know where it was and that this place actually exists. But after seeing images of Teotihuacan, I just knew. I was hit by this strong feeling in my heart and solar plexus. Although in the dreams, the place looked a little bit greener than it does today. There was some grass and also some trees. Yeah, and the last theme of dreams that repeated many times that played in the same place is, I believe they played in Pompeii, Italy. Most of the architecture was built in this characteristic, slightly reddish light ochre rock, and some houses were painted white, but all had very similar shape with these flat roofs. And I remember this spot with a large pot with an olive tree in it, and behind it was a higher building with several floors. It was quite large. And to the right of the building was this staircase leading up. And I remember walking the staircase so many times. And to the right of the stairs, behind it, was a small pathway that led to some smaller houses where I believe I lived. And pottery was quite a thing there. And I also remember seeing the place from above, from a hill or a mountain where I used to work at. And the buildings had no glass windows then, just holes, but there was a chapel that was in construction and it was planned to have some crystal windows. And I remember that everybody was talking about it because it was very modern and fancy for this time. And again, I spent many years thinking about this dream and wondering if this place exists and where it is, since it felt so real. And my mom eventually came up with the idea that it could be Pompeii, from the way I described it. And when I look at images from this place, I do feel this deep emotional recognition. And in the personal session that I had with Leah, this life was shown to me. And after that, I remembered pretty much the whole life and just many more details. It was amazing. And it was also confirmation for me that, yes, this is a past life. That was it for today's video. Thank you so much for being here, and please let me know if you also experience past life dreams. If you're interested, check out my website, norahealings.com. I do intuitive counseling, energy healings, and tarot readings. The link is in the description, and I hope to see you in my next episode. By then it will already be 2022, so have a happy new year and stay well and sweet dreams.